There we go. Now, let me tell you, folks, when I'm reading up on the nature of developing fascism in America, I go to one news source and one news source only, and that's Yahoo.com. In all seriousness, though, there are a million articles about this online, and they all cover pretty much the exact same information. An ICE nurse, fuck you, Yahoo, revealed that a Georgia detention center is performing mass hysterectomies. On Monday, a nurse at a private immigration detention center in Georgia came forward about a range of dangerous medical practices at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility. That's ICE. According to her, the center has not only ignored COVID-19 protocols, I could have guessed that one, but is actively performing mass hysterectomies on detained people. The whistleblower, Dawn Wooten, worked at the Irwin County Detention Center, which is operated by LaSalle Corrections, where she allegedly witnessed the company's refusal to test detainees for COVID-19, as well as spoke to several people who each had their uterus removed as part of an unwarranted hysterectomy procedure. According to the official complaint lodged with the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security, Wooten said the facility was performing hysterectomies on people who reported having heavy menstrual cycles or other more serious pain, but that everyone's uterus cannot possibly be that bad. Now, let's back up real quick and do some we're going to talk about history, okay? Real quick one, okay? So we have known for a while that the borders at the camps are concentration camps. Now, a lot of people freaked out about this. A lot of conservatives, they were like, oh, they're not like Auschwitz. You know, they're not just different. Well, the thing is, concentration camp actually, borders at the camps. All right, camps at the borders. Jeez, my God. Borders at the camps just rolls off the tongue, you know? Easy slip up. Whatever the case may be, concentration camp covers an incredibly wide range of potential facilities. We can look up the definition of concentration camp here. Real easy. See if this sounds familiar. A place where large numbers of people, check, especially political prisoners or members of persecuted minorities, check, are deliberately imprisoned, check, in a relatively small area, check, with inadequate facilities, check, sometimes to perform forced labor or to await mass execution. Sometimes. Don't believe this is generally the case. Not here. The term is most strongly associated with several hundred camps established by the Nazis in Germany and occupied Europe, so on and so forth. Now, not yet on the forced labor. Not yet on the forced labor. Now, here's a quick question for you guys, okay? In a time where we are experiencing a once-in-a-century pandemic that is ravaging people, particularly people with inadequate medical care, is refusing to treat your prisoners when they have been detained in an ICE facility really that different from holding them for death? It's funny because, you know, I've argued with a lot of Nazis, and you know, the Nazi line is like, oh, there were camps, of course, people died at the camps, but they died of you know, the cold. They died of starvation. They died because the Allied powers bombed the trains, and it kept them from bringing food to all the poor Jewish people they were safely keeping in their, you know, comfortable swimming pool and orchestra hall laden fun camps, you know? But even the worst version of their story, even the worst version of the story Nazis tell to explain away the Holocaust, is one in which Nazi doctors made every effort to prevent the prisoners from dying. So, if you now have a situation where, for no discernible reason, they are actively refusing to test for COVID-19 on these prisoners in our contemporary American camps, we are now engaging in behavior which is objectively worse than the worst version of the stories Nazis tell themselves and us to justify the Holocaust. And that's not even talking about the hysterectomies. The forced sterilization of people of color has been a long and proud tradition of the United States. Hitler got his inspiration for the Holocaust, for the final solution, from America. See, scientific racism, eugenics, these are, like everything else on Earth, American is apple pie, baby. We came up with all this shit, and we did it better than anybody else. All the way back from the beginning, when it came to the extermination of the Native Americans, all the way up to the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, we have had a long and proud tradition of normalizing using science and medicine as a tool to inflict suffering on people of different racial and ethnic communities. Now, we've known these camps at the border were concentration camps, okay? But never have I used the word genocide to describe the character of these camps, because genocide it's a big deal. It's a big word, 3 syllables. But forced hysterectomies, the forced sterilization of political prisoners who are disproportionately of a different ethnic demographic. Yeah. I think we're getting to around that time. I think we're getting there. We have been getting increasingly worrying signs from the ICE detention centers for a while now. Somebody linked this in chat, and I appreciate you reminding me. Remember how just about a month ago there was a big fuss about ICE using toxic chemicals to spray down their I struggle even to call them cells, their little, inhabitation areas. Remember that? Here's evidence of forced labor as well. Is that true? This is an opinion piece. Why is Congress allowing private contractors to exploit detained immigrants? Well, that's a great question. There are more than 48,000 people being held in immigration detention. More than 2/3 of them are confined by private companies. God, can you... what an American welcome, by the way, to the United States. You get arrested by a fascist border patrol, and then you get thrown into a private immigration prison with no attempt, with no due process, and you just rot there while they rip your uteruses out and subject you to a spray from toxic chemicals and exploit your labor. What quintessentially American, honestly, better than Staten Island, I'll tell you that much, okay? Listen, if you're getting the all-American experience, all right, Staten Island is for fucking losers, okay? This is America, baby. You want the full ride, okay? Have a dark skin tone and come up here from the southern border, okay? Whew. One feature of privately run centers is the subject of 6 separate lawsuits which say that privately run immigration detention centers are coercing detainees into working for $1 a day and punishing those who don't. Interesting. We did that with the Jews as well. The lawsuits demand, amongst other things, that the practice stop and that detained workers be paid minimum wage. How wonderful. How nice. So we got the forced labor part right there. The toxic exposure of chemicals. We can go into this as well. Since May 11th, 2020, we have received reports multiple times per day from people in ICE detention in Adelanto regarding the negative and serious health consequences that they are suffering due to being exposed to hazardous chemicals being disseminated by the GEO group staff. These are just a few of the in-person reports. The disinfection spray the facility is using is hurting us. Everyone in our facility is having bloody noses, burning eyes, headaches, and our bones have been hurting. The spray they use is called HDQ Neutral. On the bottle, just delousing agent, by the way. On the bottle, it says it has irreversible eye damage and skin burns. Avoid breathing. Do not get in eyes or skin. Wear goggles and face shields. Wash thoroughly after using. The facility is not protecting us from the spray. Our beds are right next to the door handles, so when they spray it on the door handles, it gets into our rooms and we breathe the spray in. We have asked to be seen by the doctor, but they have not stopped using the spray. I started bleeding from my nose after being in contact with a strong chemical they're using. I am still bleeding more than 5 hours later. An official had entered the bathrooms in the morning and sprayed a very strong disinfectant. The spray is called HDQ Neutral. I was told about the spray's name by an employee. When I complained to supervisory staff, she told me it was not her problem but that of the cleaning and safety staff to take it up with them. The staff had placed advisories on the walls, but it did not mention any safety risks or wait a period of time before using the bathrooms. The guards have started spraying the chemicals everywhere. Yeah, you can coughing up blood, making everyone sick, really bad allergies. Yeah. And now we have the forced hysterectomies. You know, we're throwing it all in there. So what does this mean exactly? And people are linking right now innumerable accounts and evidence towards the terrible things we're doing to the people in these camps. But we're going to stop here, okay? If I wanted to, I could spend an entire stream, 4 consecutive hours, going over all of the things that are being done to these people. So let me tell you how this works. Okay? No, that would be a little bit morbid, don't you think? Let's focus on analysis over content. If you've ever taken a higher level English class, you know that that's what matters. It's analysis over content. Listen. What led to the Holocaust? You know, the saying is it could happen here, right? That's the saying everyone's been repeating for some 70 years now. Well, what happened exactly? Well, we had a persecuted minority who were kind of scapegoated with a bunch of problems that Germany was experiencing. They were simultaneously weak and degenerate, but also responsible for a great deal of suffering. And the economic anxieties of the German population were played upon to exacerbate the fear and hatred they felt towards these people, you know. The German citizens were told about the avaricious Jews who would not lend their gasoline, their rations to their neighbor in a time of need, who would stick out for each other but none other. And this reminds me a lot of what we say about undocumented immigrants, or what the Republicans say, at least. This persistent narrative that they're a cabal of militantly organized illegal aliens who don't give a fuck about our values, and at one hand are weak and pathetic and criminal, but on the other hand are single-handedly ripping from the hands of good old-fashioned Americans their jobs, their prosperity, their homes, their wealth, everything. So what you do is you start quietly, and you start stochastically. And violence against undocumented immigrants has obviously been disproportionate for a long time. You know, that didn't start with the Holocaust, but you ramp it up, and you know, eventually the government starts taking increasing measures, sort of levying out public opinion. You know, they don't extend past public opinion. Back in 1996, there wouldn't have been ICE detention centers all over the place. You know, you have to build to this. You have to have the fear from 9/11, the fear of the outsider, xenophobia built upon the first 8 years of the 21st millennium. You know, you need to ramp up the tension. And where we are today is, let's be perfectly honest with ourselves, a couple of steps from the edge of a cliff. Okay? Can we recognize that? We're really, really close there. Oh, 21st century, I'm sorry. I tried to sound cool and it backfired. We are, yeah, Warhammer 21K, you know, in the dark millennium of the future, there is only immigrant detention centers. We're in a pretty bad position. We're in a position now where we have sort of stochastically assigned culpability for the well-being of these people in large part to private organizations. It was smart of the government to have these people housed in private facilities for a number of reasons. For one, this spreads out the chain of command. It means that if you have a problem, a concern, an issue, a complaint, you have to take it up with different people, multiple people, different hierarchies, different chains of command. Different people are responsible in different areas. And it also means that you cannot singularly direct all criticism against the United States government. Which is useful for the Trump administration, because it means the Trump administration doesn't have to answer for anything that's happening right now. People think, and this is such a cold take, people think that big history, like the Holocaust, happens like you flip a switch and everyone's aware of it, and it was only through the moral failing of the people at that time that they weren't willing to respond to it. You know, like, oh, the Holocaust is happening. Well, the people of Germany are bad, so they don't do anything about it. But in reality, the United States of America has for a long time been uncomfortably close to rediscovering its roots, the roots that inspired Adolf Hitler. The United States of America has been very comfortable, as time has gone on, digging up those old tombstones. After World War II, we had a very strong performative denunciation of the not the neo-Nazis, the original Nazis, the Nazis. But before World War II, there were a lot of people who liked Nazis in America. There were rallies for a different political party in America, which is a little weird if you actually think about it. And then World War II happened, and while the nation was united against a national enemy, and we had allies over in Europe to protect. But think of all those people in America who supported the Nazis before World War II. Do you think they changed their mind over the course of the war? Like when they were getting really ramped up about the glory of the Aryans and the supremacy of the white race and the degeneracy of the and the Jews. Do you think like World War II happened? They were like, oh, oh man, that was really stupid of me, guys. Well, I am a non-racist now. No, probably not. And a lot of Nazis, or people who had previous affiliations with the Nazis, just kind of got integrated into America. And we kind of let bygones be bygones, because immediately after World War II ended, we ended up facing a threat that we could essentially put aside our differences with the Nazis over. You know? That's the problem. If you go immediately from fighting the Nazis and then jump right over to fighting the communists, the issue is the United States government is now suddenly in a position where it can get along with people who it was just fighting against, people whose ideas it had just fought against, because now they have a shared enemy. And of course, the Soviet Union was, let's be real here, a greater threat to the United States of America than Nazi Germany ever was, in a number of ways. In many, many ways. So their vigor was compounded upon in that respect. And we are returning to those times. And we're going to have to recognize now that the old war, the real war, the war between Nazism and socialism, is soon going to be the only meaningful one in this country. Liberals are becoming obsolete. Who is ideologically motivated by fucking Biden-Harris? People concede to Biden-Harris. People default to Biden-Harris. But I don't see Biden-Harris signs. I don't see Biden-Harris bumper stickers. I see people talk about how we need Biden-Harris as an alternative to Trump, and I get behind that argument, yeah. But people are, I think, generally speaking, moving towards the polls. And there are two polls, and we know those polls, and it is around those two polls that this channel has been arguing since its conception, and that is socialism and fascism. And that is where we are finding ourselves now. And right now, the fascists are winning. They have the government. Their population is more radicalized. It is a testament to the weakness of the left in this country that we are capable of legitimately engaging in the early stages of a genocide against undocumented immigrants. And what is being done about it exactly? We had a whistleblower come out with this. What's going to happen? Some lawsuits are going to take a couple of years to go through. In a just society, in a fair society where there was, let's not even say a fair society, let's say a society where socialists and fascists exist to equal measure in governance and in the population. If that was the case, we would have torn down those facilities already. All these ICE facilities would have been raided and torn down by citizens. They would have acted with the same vigor and self-righteousness as the Nazis did during the Night of Broken Glass, except they actually would have been acting out of legitimate and justified moral righteousness. But that is not happening, because we are weak, and because they are strong, right now, at least. And at this moment, in the 2020 election, there is very little we can do about this, except forestall the end of the fight in their favor. Which is why I would prefer Biden to win. Because there is a non-zero chance that things in this respect will get worse slower than they do under Trump. We are stalling. We are hurtling in the rapids over the waterfall, and we are desperately paddling backwards. We can't outrun the waterfall. We need a better solution. But in the meantime, it is certainly better than just making ourselves as aquadynamic as possible, as torpedoing off the edge of the waterfall and crashing against the rocks below. Vosh, something doesn't feel right about this fear. Fear is a rational response to the situation we are in right now. That is a valid feeling to feel. It's also a motivational response, I agree.